We've been seeing in the media that Canada's real estate industry is icy cold. We are here joined with the CEO of Bōde, Rob Price, to take a look at what the data is actually telling us about what's happening in Calgary real estate's marketplace in September of 2022. Rob, give us a little bit of insight of what the data is actually telling us about what's happening in Calgary.
Yeah, I think we have the propensity in Canada to say, let's talk about the Canadian real estate market, when actually there isn't a Canadian real estate market. There's a bunch of individual markets, and they all have different forces and different economic implications and supply demand situations. So when the media says we have a Canadian real estate market, I think what we should say is what's actually going on at the city, community, and property type level. And of course, Vancouver and Edmonton have cooled off. Vancouver and Toronto, I should say, have cooled off, and they're the biggest markets in Canada. So it's natural for the media to focus that way. But if you take a market like Calgary, it's actually still performing quite well and above average in terms of the last 4 years until you break it down by property type. And that's where it gets interesting. On the detached side, your normal standard home in the suburbs of Calgary really has cooled down in terms of demand for those types of property. Of course, we saw over the pandemic, the demand exploded, but conversely, and the reurbanization that we're seeing is happening towards the apartments, and we see way above average demand and sales on that side. So I think really important to break that down and really understand the difference between those two property types at this particular moment in time.
Yeah, and of course, we provide monthly reports on a deep dive of that data. But another thing that is kind of an interesting element of what happens here in Calgary is the energy economy, which we are so used to a boom and bust here in Calgary. But Rob, what has that done specifically in Calgary in terms of the overall inflationary times that we're in as it relates to Calgary's real estate?
Yeah, we have with energy prices where they are. There's a lot of wealth being generated in Calgary and Alberta, and we have a lot of cheap real estate still on the commercial side in terms of office space. We've seen a lot of tech companies move in that are either servicing the energy space or just building global exportable tech businesses. So the revitalization of the downtown core, I think, is a really interesting piece of the puzzle here in terms of looking at how that affects the residential market, because if you look at those cycles, as you mentioned, over time, there's always a direct relationship or correlation between how much of our downtown that's highly dense and has a lot of available Class A space, how much is that affecting, and in what ways does that affect the residential market?
So, as always, we highly recommend that you do take a look at the data, because people's opinions on what is actually happening in your community with your home is not specific enough. So we provide all that data, of course, to all of our users so you can make the decision that's right for you. If you have any questions you'd like us to answer on these monthly reports, please just let us know in the comments below. And as always, we provide the fulsome reports over on our blog, so check that out as well. We'll talk to you next month.